Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Tuesday episode this week with the very special team member perspective, specifically the QA perspective with Julio de Lima. Hi Julio, welcome back.
Hello everyone.
So Julio, on Tuesdays we talk about teams, but before we dive into that, we actually want to know, from your perspective as a QA and as an Agile practitioner, what was the book that most influenced you in your career?
For sure was the Agile Testing from Janet Gregory and Crispin.
What were the things, the main messages, perhaps the biggest insights that you got as you read that book?
So that book is like a Bible for testing practitioners that want to start to work with a team, agile team, from the point of view of testing, So the main message that the book passed is that now your work should be prevent bugs and help in the quality since the very beginning. And this is the main message, but there is another thing that is influencing the QAs on this book, that is to be brave. And to be brave is not to start to complain about everything, but think critically and collaboratively with your team to bring quality, to prevent, instead of to find bugs in the end, and to find errors and to raise risks at the end. The idea is to anticipate this.
Absolutely. And as we talked about yesterday, it is quite a big difference for a QA to go from a waterfall context where they basically come in at the end and have a lot of time to develop test cases, but then are in a hurry to execute them, to an agile team where the team requires and expects the quality engineer, as you just said, to be able to contribute to the definition of what quality is and how to focus on quality from the very beginning.
Yes, exactly. Not only in the functional side as common in the waterfall, but now in the quality itself, in the quality of the design, in the quality of code, in the quality of ideas,
So it's like focusing on all aspects of quality, not just does it do what it was expected to do.
Yes, exactly. It's more than that. I learned in my career that it's not what, but also how, And when you start to think about how this should works, you start to think about non-functional perspective as well,
Absolutely. One of the things that really that maybe was one of the biggest insights for me as I started working with Agile teams and I started interacting with Agile testers was also the focus on going beyond the specs, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of articles written on the concept of exploratory testing, but the idea is that the role of the tester is not just to check that the test spec is fulfilled, that the tests pass, but rather to help the team identify even potential new functionalities from the perspective of the end user or customer.
Yes, and Agile help us to be closer to this view, right? Before, on waterfall, we were just, fulfilled of requirements and versions of codes, Now we are closer to the PO. We can talk to him or to her and understand really the user point of view,
Absolutely. Well, that's definitely a great book. Thanks for the recommendation, Julio. Now we turn our attention to the teams and how sometimes the teams develop these patterns, these behaviors that lead to problems down the line. So, Julio, tell us a story of a team you work with as a team member, as a QA engineer, and what were those patterns, those behaviors, those things that the team did that ultimately led to big problems down the line?
Oh, that's deep. So one of the patterns starts very, how they say, teeny, and it starts to grow. That is the one behavior that comes from the QA and then start to grow to the team. That is to start to think that you are right and the team is not.
So can you give us an example of what that would look like?
Yes, for sure. I as a tester, I have a lot of knowledge regarding test techniques, test design, test strategy, non-functional tests. And it brings me a kind of different view of what is the reality for the others, that doesn't know about
A
that
different
don't know
perspective.
about. Yes. For example, when I see something that for me is clearly a bug, I tell to my team and I say, hey, this is a bug. And the team, there is not that kind of notion of my perspective can say, no, it's an improvement, you know? And this starts to create a kind of battle of fight among the team, and start to make a self-destructive way to work.
So this is the famous "it's not a bug, it's a feature" discussion, right? And I mean, I as a developer, I am guilty of having said those words to a QA, a test colleague who was trying to tell me something. But walk us through an example. So maybe something from your history, something that kind of illustrates how that small conversation. I mean, it might be just one message in the chat application that the team uses, and then somebody says, well, that's not a bug, it's a feature, right? So how does that then spiral out of control and become a bigger problem for the team?
Okay, great. So once upon a time, I found a defect. This defect was regarding the color of the button used to add one product to the cart in an e-commerce application, And I talked to my colleague, a front-end developer, and I said, this will hurt our user. And instead of to be gray, it should be orange, because this button should be a call for action. But the developer were not, how do I say, understanding what I am understanding, In his opinion, that is just a button, and it will be clickable. But in my opinion, I know exactly that based on some researches, the users will not click at that button. And I said, this is a bug. And he said, this is not a bug, At that very moment, Vasco, I noticed that it's all about expectations. And then I said, bro, this is I'm talking that this is a bug based on that research. And as you can see here, in our we were using Google Analytics at that time, And then I said, as you can see here, we see exactly the same demographic information that research was based on, So it's very the probability to have the same situation in our product is high. And then he said, yeah, now I can understand what you are talking about, And then we were able to do this.
So he thought or put it this way, as the conversation started, maybe your colleague's expectation was that you were talking about the button. And in the end, what turned out was that you were not talking about the button. The button was fine. What you were talking about is the implicit message that the caller gives the user.
That's a perfect summary, Vasco.
So this kind of drives me to one. So this is a great example, by the way, a very simple example to explain and to understand. But of course, it can be a lot deeper and a lot more detailed when we talk about the potential difference of perspective between what is a bug for the QA and a feature request for the developer. So let's dive into this a little bit more, because I think that in here what we are talking about is really, as you said, a difference in expectation. So how have you in your career, Julio, helped your colleagues and helped yourself to kind of, overcome that difference? Because at the end of the day, we're not talking about whether something is a bug or a feature. We're talking about how to improve the product, right?
Yes, exactly. So just to clarify, this kind of behavior comes also from the QA, right? For example, when a developer comes to me and say that the code is good, and I see that he is not following some practice, some good practice, and then I say, no, it's not good because you are not following the best practice A, B, or C. So in this case, and this may answer your question. That is, we always need to understand that our colleague, our peer, doesn't knows about the practice that we know. For example, in this time when my colleague said, Julio, this code is good, I was looking for best practice from the market, but I forget to ask about the best practice that the teams agreed among us. So the answer, the secret that we have here is we always need to have practice, how they say, the care to share our knowledge among the team. I share my quality knowledge among the team in, for example, coding dojos or in or talks, internal talks, and my colleagues also do the same. And we collaborate in code reviews or in testing reviews or in design reviews in order to share the knowledge that we have. Since we are a team now, we are not silos anymore, So that's the point.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We're a team. We're not silos anymore and should help each other. Great point. Thank you for that, Julio.
You're welcome.
Tuesday is Team Day here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, but tomorrow we talk about something that goes beyond the work we do with the teams. We will talk about how to lead change and what our guests have learned from leading and participating in change programs during their career. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.